Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to Real Deal Media's Weekend Update. I am your late night host here, the one and only unique Dean Ryan, as you can see. Running a little late tonight because I can now tell you a big announcement. I'm just making sure everything's working. Uh, we are now live. Real Deal Media has been one of the selected few to be live streaming right now on Brighteon.com. I can officially tell you. So I was making sure all the loose ends were fixed. You can now see us at the following Brighteon.com/slash Real Deal Media. Real Deal Media. So it looks like things are working. Yes, we are live. What a historic moment. Got to thank Mike Adams for this, for the opportunity. Really great. So you can now see us there. In the event anything does go blackout, you can now catch us on Brighteon.com. Right there on the front page. Anytime at all, we're live. Okay, so let's get started here. We have an incredible night of weekend news where this is what we do here at Real Deal Media. We kind of lightly graze upon the week's worth of headlines and some of the headlines making news right now this weekend and forecasting the new week ahead of us. So we're going to be getting to a whole lot of that. And some of that's going to inquire and entail, yes, something that just happened with RFK Jr. that's quite disturbing and alarming. But we're going to be getting to some other things in the politicos of the United States here tonight. We're going to be talking about the industrial gag orders that are being just siphoned from reality and put, into people's gag orders legislation now. Something that's happening to the Trump campaign. I'm going to tell you about. Very quite disturbing. Also, some Bunter Hyden news. No big whoop there. We've been talking about that for 4 years. But we're going to be talking about some of the accelerating violence now we're seeing in the metropolitan areas. One of those places, which I've known about for quite some time, is Las Vegas. Oh, yes. The youth violence is very deadly this time of year. So we're going to be getting into some of those domestics. Plus, now the world is looking past the United Nations. They're saying the UN, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Somebody, answered. You're going to be hearing about that, and it's quite pleasant. Indeed, it is, and very emotional too for people who just hate the UN. Also, too, this is rather big. Speaking of the falling bridges of the UN, well, now Turkey. I'm going to be telling you about this in our international segment. Turkey is now considering getting out of the EU. Wow. And the ripple effect from that, I could feel it. That's how big that would be. So we're going to be investigating that. Plus, speaking of investigations, they're now investigating Elon Musk in his empire because he didn't want to go to war with Russia. Therefore, he's either with us or against us. So we'll be getting into that. Plus, some scandalous part of tonight. I'm not too proud of it, but it is salacious, steamy, and everything in between. I'm going to be talking about the South Dakota governor, Kristi Noem, and a salacious scandal that we'll be getting into. Plus, a Russell Brand sex scandal. I'm telling you, where there's a reason, there's a rhyme. I think I know why. So we're going to be getting into those and why those are happening now, they say. Now. So anyways, all right, we are broadcasting now live. We are broadcasting now live on Real Deal Media's, the official page over there, the travel page on Facebook, The Real Dean Ryan. We are also broadcasting live on Twitter. Yes, I can now tell you that. And Dean Ryan TV, Rumble, and officially tonight, the first night ever, Brighteon.com, one of the first people going live. And what a special occasion that is. We love the Brighteon family. Okay, let's get started with a little bit of some weekend headlines making news around the world and in your neck of the woods. That's absolutely correct. It's our new slide, too. Weekend edition. Isn't that lovely? Okay, let's get started here. All right, so yes, now let's talk about this. A very alarming situation now with JFK. RFK Jr., Freudian slip. It's a terrible thing to even talk about. Yes, he's now in danger. This just happened today. In the wake of the new protest that's beginning to brew on the Democratic side of things of life, well, he's getting screwed by the Biden campaign and the DNC altogether. He being RFK Jr., his campaign, and all of his supporters in New Hampshire and Georgia, and so on and so on. They won't let this guy run, but more importantly, they're losing the narrative to the RFK Jr. talking points. Very deadly, very dangerous, very deadly, very timely. Well, get this here. Now, an armed man impersonating a U.S. Marshal who went to one of RFK Jr.'s events is now arrested, ID'd, in the whole nine. The guy has a manifesto, too. You put the two and two together there. Anyways, well, a man who claimed to be part of the Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s security detail while carrying pistols and extra ammunition, well, he's now quickly detained, they said, by authorities after showing up at a California event for the Democratic presidential hopeful. And it was very, very shady, to say the least. Well, here's what he was wearing. I'll show you in a second. They said the man was wearing two shoulder holsters, with loaded pistols, spare ammunition, magazines, and was carrying a U.S. Marshal badge on a lanyard belt clip with federal ID. Wow. Do we smell inside job? I think we do. So anyways, continuing now. Well, Kennedy posted an image of who the man was, which I have here, and you would see him at first, and you would think, oh, that's totally a security guy. But wait till you see. You can see how they blend in, and you're going to see more of this. And here's the kicker, too. Claiming to be from the Trump camp. Where did we see this before? Well, now his name is Adrian Paul Espero, who's 44 years old, and he's this gentleman right here. And he was charged with carrying a concealed weapon and booked on $35,000 bail. By the way, that's not much. Now, his brother, who dropped him off at the event, was also briefly detained, saying the entire matter was a misunderstanding, that his brother is an unemployed emergency medical technician and had been told there was a security job there for him. And there he is, yes, because that's the EMT I think about when I think of them. Well, he approached the security guard and asked him about the point of contact, Raymond, and said they didn't know who he was talking about. They told him to stay right there, don't move, or else. So this is very, very peculiar now. Now, let me just say this. Okay, because he left a threatening and often incoherent TikTok video, and God knows we're very familiar with those. But he was talking about things about, this is very key. In this manifesto video, he was talking about taking care of each other, protect the women and children, and if I don't make it back, this is I quote, call the blank president your commander-in-chief, Donald J. Trump. Well, if the fix is not in on this one, I don't know what is. And this is also noteworthy. RFK Jr. requested security detail by the Secret Service Protection Act that his father put into place many, many decades ago and was denied. So whoever sent this stooge, whoever sent Adrian Paul, I believe, whoever sent this stooge is definitely trying to make it look like it's a Donald J. Trump routine. We saw this at the Hillary campaign, doing it to Bernie Sanders. Wonderful, just incredible. Anyways, let's continue on as we now go to the Donald Trump is now getting gagged story. Oh, God. By the way, I'm getting word that Rumble is not working, and my answer to that is, what's new? Is it not working? Okay. It's not working. What can I do? There's a Rumble connection here towards the end of the night with some things going on in these salacious fields we're going to get to. Okay, so we're not working on Rumble. Just wonderful. All right, continuing on now as we get to talk about the special prosecutor. Yeah, special prosecutor Jack Smith. How regulatory can you ever possibly get? Well, he's now seeking a gag order, if you didn't know, in the Trump case, or cases, because, well, his feelings are hurt, and, Trump has a sharp tongue, and Jack Smith gets, well, his nose gets jacked and he gets nosebleeds from being offended, just like Rumble does currently. Well, a special counsel now, get this, has now asked for a narrow gag order for Trump in an election interference case. Well, he's protecting us. Well, Jack Smith's office says Trump's disparaging and inflammatory attacks have now spurred threats against witnesses and threaten the court's process. Process. You don't say. Well, let's look at this little video here about the special counsel. This is all the way from PMSNBC, my favorite, your favorite, all of our favorites here. And let's see how they're presenting it, because we have to have an idea of just how the narrative is going to swing, because anyone that speaks out against what's happening by the power structure is now going to be gagged. That's how they're going to do it now. This is the modus operandi. Check this out.
Counsel investigating former President Trump wants a judge to give what's essentially a limited gag order against Mr. Trump in his election interference case. We're talking about Jack Smith's team saying that the former president is, and I'm quoting here, making inflammatory public statements that could intimidate witnesses, influence potential jurors, or end up with the harassment of others in this case. Ryan Riley is joining us now. Part of why this is so significant and so thorny is not just because it is unprecedented, because it is unprecedented for a former president to be under indictment, of course, but also because there is a First Amendment argument that the Donald Trump team will likely try to use here, given.
There you have it. Okay, I'm just hearing things. Did everybody see this? Okay, I don't know what's going on. Things are going haywire here. I do apologize. Okay, I do apologize. Let me fix this. You go live with Brighteon and this kind of ordeal happens. The powers that be just don't want it. What can I tell you? Anyways, let's pretend that didn't happen. Let's continue on here. If I had a producer, I'll tell you, life would be a little different. Oh, man. Let's continue here with some real deal headlines. And if we're not on Rumble, screw them. Yeah, they're not the greatest either. All right, continuing on here. After being gagged, well, Trump is now fighting back, as you can imagine. I'm sure you're going to be hearing more about that. Well, here's a story. Speaking of weird and odd and just gag-oriented stories. Well, Bunter Hyden is back in the news, but very, very lightly. They don't want you to know what's really happening with the son of the dead president, do they? No, they don't, and that's going to bring us to this. Yeah, Bunter Hyden is now, he's going to be arraigned, they say, for convictions or likely to be convictions of gun charges, which is likely to prelude bigger than the tax case, they say. Yeah, I'm sure they'll throw the book at him, won't they? Well, this is interesting because the indictment of the Joe Biden son and his character there, Bunter Hyden, on 3 felony gun charges caused a splash in a much bigger legal bombshell. Is it expected to drop soon? Well, Hunter Biden, who's likely going to face federal tax charges in addition to this now, for allegedly failing to pay taxes on $4.4 million in an income he made in 2017 and 2018 from the Ukrainian energy company. Well, a Chinese private equity firm, they say, and other sources are likely attached to this matter. Well, it's those kind of business activities. A lot of people say, well, this is called treason. This is called espionage. This is called up for sale. This is called Clinton 101. Yet nothing has happened. And it's those kind of things that the House now Republicans over there are putting at a center of an impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden and hope to make a major issue of this in the upcoming year. Yeah, next year is going to be wild now. Now, here's something else to note. He has unpaid taxes, which, okay, that we'll go with that. He pled guilty to 2 of those now, but prosecutors now have a fresh slate of charges for Biden, they say, over the unpaid taxes, in addition to some things they're not telling us. Well, what could that possibly be? I mean, we know he made $1 million from a company he formed as a chief executive officer for the Chinese conglomerate. We know that he made $664,000 from a Chinese infrastructure investment. And we also know he made $500,000 from the Ukrainian energy company. And let's not forget the $70,000 from the Romanian businesses and affairs. And those are just from the top of my memory that I can think of. It's just unbelievable because we've been talking about this kid for ages and his crack pipe, and we're waiting to see a little less conversation and a little more action, if you ask me. All right, moving on there. Okay. Well, let's get to this one here because when I think of dead people, yes, I think of Joe Biden. But I also think of Mike Pence because there's a lot of deaths to go around, and certainly he made the list this year. Yes, indeed, I do. Well, Mike Pence, who is now pushing for a ban on TikTok, calling it a communist platform. Can you believe that? And let me just say, TikTok, yes, it's owned by China, but it's, they did a test on it compared to Instagram and a lot of these other apps, and it is said to be one of the most intrusive, invasive apps you can possibly put on your mobile device or just any device whatsoever, because it all goes back to the Chinese government. Yes, and it's a two-edged, double-headed sword, but I'll explain a little bit in a second. Well, here it is now. Mike Pence is now pushing for the ban on TikTok, calling it a communist platform, part of the manifestos, and probably other things too. Well, former Vice President and current stiff Mike Pence said that the U.S. should ban TikTok, calling it a platform allowed by the Chinese government to obtain data on many Americans without their knowledge. Well, that's not true. It's with their knowledge now, because we've told people. People have known about this. Trump made a whole big deal about it too. Well, here's a quote from the stiff himself. The quote is, "We ought to be banning TikTok. TikTok is a platform for the Chinese Communist government. They're collecting data on Americans, and every single day they are doing so," he said to Bloomberg recently now. And he said, quote, "Young Americans need to know that their privacy is being compromised." Yes, they ought to know. Well, here's my thing is, do they care? No, they don't care. The much younger people don't care. No, they were born into this. They don't remember anything before the Patriot Act. No, they don't care. And, furthermore, he's right. But at the same time, it's TikTok that's really keeping a lot of these stories, like the Hawaiian cover-up story where they're in Maui, alive, and many other stories. Yes, which goes into the destabilization process. It's good, yet it's bad at the same time, and it's complicated. So that's what Mike Pence is doing, the active stiff, and the guy who says he has the 2024 presidential race locked down, him and Nikki Haley. It's pretty disgusting, isn't it? Okay, well, here's something very, very, very sad here. Now, when we talk about escalating violence in the cities everywhere, a lot of it's migration, but a lot of it, too, is the outlaw less. I should say the lawless by outlaws. Talk about a tongue twister there. There's, you can get away with stealing things in a store now. No cops are going to stop you. You can decry racism if you're a person of color doing it. There's many loopholes to be part of the demographic that says, yes, crime does pay. Well, this is coming out of Las Vegas that has been seeing a turbulent violence in the rising years here. Now, this is something, and it's called, quote, "Murdered that man for laughs." Well, here's a shocking video I'm about to show you. If you have a weak stomach, turn away, but let me tell you about it first. It's coming out of Zero Hedge. Now, major media outlets with progressive slants, they say, downplayed the surge in violent crime in the Democratic-controlled cities, counties, and often overlook the growing culture of violence affecting a younger generation. All the shoot-up games, Mortal Kombat's, all those things. The chickens are coming home to roost. Well, here it is. There has been a rise now in the violence committed by teenagers and young men in major cities across the U.S. Some experts question if mental health issues stemming from the lockdowns are the reason for the outbursts of violence committed by the youth. Well, or perhaps Hollywood desensitizes teens with violent movies, songs, and video games. Yes, and no father in the home, too, I should add. Well, social media is promoting all the just ghetto fabulous violence out there, then what seems to be the problem? Hence, Grand Theft Auto. Now, just a month ago over there in the Las Vegas area, Metropolitan Police department arrested 17-year-old driver of a Hyundai who fled the scene after intentionally running over and killing Andreas Probst, a retired California police chief. Wow. So here it is. This is an intentional murder, and get used to this. They're now targeting people all over the place, all over the world right now. This is their moment to shine, and we got to be aware of it. Check this out. Sad state of affairs.
Bitch ass nigga! Fucking shit, bitch! Fucking shit! Nigga! Fuck wrong with blood. Ready? Yeah. Hit his ass. That nigga knocked out. Shit, we need to get out of here. What's the address? Lakeview Jones.
Animals, aren't they? Animals. That's the generation we have to look forward to. What are we going to do with this? When the answer is build more prisons, but how many more prisons are we going to build? Because how do you rehabilitate this? That's just a microcosm of what the United States is facing here, and I'm sure North America in general. How do you rehabilitate people, youth, low-income just demographics to just join the new society? There's not going to be any safety nets going forward. How do you rehabilitate that? Not sure there's a proper answer, is there? Because, what is it? 1 out of every 7 gangbangers in LA just rehabilitate themselves and go back into society and be just a decent person. Those are not good odds. Not good odds at all, especially when you look at the culture of the type of music young people are listening to today. And I think we have the right to say that now, because when our parents said it before and their parents, but look where we are today. I mean, this is bio-weaponized music, and this is what it's doing. So, you can now say it's not safe to go for a just pleasant bike ride anymore, because you're going to have Grand Theft Auto teenage punks who are now murderers. Very dangerous state of affairs. Very dangerous. Oh, my God. Anyways, well, here's a somewhat of a pleasant story as we now go international and continue our light grazing through the Real Deal headlines, and then we'll look for some questions, comments very soon. Anyways, continuing now on our safari here. So the world is now rejoicing with common sense, and therefore I think we should all rejoice with them, because that's what being joyful is all about. In this sense, it means that now the world is now disappointed by the United Nations. And now people, and I should say countries and a good portion of the world, they're looking elsewhere for answers. And I know, I think I can speak for all of us by saying, not one time have I ever looked towards the United Nations for any answers whatsoever. I can now share that with you tonight. Well, here's a brutal, grinding war, they say, in Ukraine, governments overthrown in Niger and Gabon, and lingering hostility over the COVID-19 84 pandemic and the unequal distribution of life-saving miracle jabs. They say, it's coming from Yahoo News, so you do the math. So continuing that, just Yahoo, yes. That's what we're all mad about. We didn't get the miracle jabs in time just to go to the next level. Anyways, continuing here. So with dozens of world leaders descending upon New York for the United Nations General Assembly annual gathering, well, global problems are showing up fast, thick at the world body's door. With no solutions in sight, many countries are now starting to look elsewhere to do something about them. Yes, we don't need to look at the UN anymore, thank goodness. Well, the UN wants the central forum of trying to be the solver of everything geopolitical. is now increasingly on the sidelines of being the new global politics, unable to keep up with the array of shocks, crises, coups that seem to be fracturing the world by design, if I might add. That's been evidence of the powerlessness in the intervene in the places where years past the UN meant something. So, the world is just waking up to this. And I have to say, isn't it time that we not just get rid of NATO? Isn't it time that we also get rid of the United Nations that should have never formed, which started from the League of Nations after World War I, and then they made it United Nations after World War II? So what they're doing is they're going to try to shelf the United Nations, change the name of it, because if World War I gave us the League of Nations, if World War II gave us the UN, the United Nations, World War III is going to give us a bigger conglomerate that is in the race to grab the mantle and the narrative of the global narrative. So therefore, once that happens, if it happens, the UN will be passé and no need for it anymore, because they're going to have a new brand. Just like when Blackwater shut down, they had another Blackwater in motion, the same guys. So this is what they're just, gearing us up for psychologically, to say, yes, we got them, but then there's another final boss around the corner. I just see the footprints and the paws in the sand. So yes, many countries are now questioning the existence and why is it needed. And here's another big factor, if I might add, in the just realm of geopolitical just savviness. Other countries now are not just looking past the UN. They're looking at the UN and just their rear mirror. As now many people and many countries are now getting more and more into BRICS, in the regrouping and the reshaping of the world, because you have Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, depending what time of the week they're posturing on, the EU or who. Well, India is also now focusing on the so-called Quad that consists of the US, India, Japan, and Australia. So there's new alliances being formed. And that's not just globally. You're going to see this more and more domestically wherever you are. You're going to see provinces, hopefully, probably in Canada, saying, you know what, we want to get out of the federal system. We're Alberta, we're the Texas of Canada. We want to go our own way. And you're going to see that domestically too. Because no matter what happens in this next election, it's going to be contested every which way to Sunday. So you're going to see Texas make their move and try to be a sovereign country. You might see Hawaii do the same thing. They have momentum on their side from the decries of the attack on the Hawaiian Islands. And you're also going to see the same thing potentially in the UK due to Brexit. And that's another thing. Nobody's talking about Brexit in the UK because they don't want to. So you're going to see a lot of destabilization, a lot of breaking up, and a lot of people questioning the confines of society and just the structure and the pellets that we were just given and just led to accept and told to, mandated. Anyways, it's a very, very pleasant thing to hear about the UN going down, rightfully so, long overdue. Okay, here's one more story here. And this is just another story to celebrate just how great it is to hear the UN going bye-bye soon. As we now talk about Erdogan over there in Turkey, this is incredible, and I love it too. Well, Erdogan says now Turkey may part ways with the European Union. I know, it's a sad occasion, isn't it? Well, he implied that the country could end its membership bid. Thank you. Well, this is coming out of the AP, the most untrusted name in news. Now, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, said this Saturday that Turkey may part ways with the EU, implying that the country is thinking about ending its bid to join the 27-nation bloc. Well, here's a quote. He's saying the EU is making efforts to sever ties with Turkey. He told reporters at the UN General Assembly in New York. See, this is all happening this weekend. Always happens on the weekends, all the big opportunities in life. Well, he was responding to a question about a recent report adopted by the European Parliament, which stated, quote, the accession process cannot resume under the current circumstances and calls on the EU to explore a parallel, realistic framework. Sure. So this is going to have a long effect and a ripple effect at that. And this will end, the more unpopular the EU gets, more than it already is, on top of the UN, we're looking at some final days of the centralized government, and they're not going to go easy. They're not going to go just overnight. This is the war right here. This is the war. This is the world reshaping, and the world as we knew it and know it. It's going to be a thing of the past, if not already. That's how fast this is moving. Okay, so let's take a quick break here, and when we get back here at Weekend Update, a light version of our main show. If you want to see our main show, that's Monday through Thursday, weeknights, 10 p.m. Eastern. But when we get back, I'm going to get into some salacious, scandalous stories. We're going to talk about and strategize why they're coming out now. We're going to tell you about just who's behind it, the timing of it all, and plus we're going to end on a very beautiful German just little speech that is very inspiring, and I put it all together. I think you'll enjoy that. So stand by here at Real Deal Media's Weekend Update with Dean Ryan. I'll be back after this quick message. Don't go anywhere. Stand by.
We're essentially one step away from being under China's Great Wall of censorship.
They're shutting down debate. They're censoring debate on their censorship bill. We just got the notice right now. As you know, they've been trying to censor the internet. Creeping totalitarianisms who give Trudeau's woke bureaucrats over at the CRTC the power to control what you see and say on the internet.
On the internet giants, we've seen Facebook and other countries post, other companies post record profits. Now, Facebook is choosing to block Canadians' access to local news instead of paying their fair share. That's unacceptable. We're not going to put up with Facebook's play.
Registering your guns is just the first step towards taking away guns from everyone. But that's never going to happen because here in Canada, we have a culture that has grown up with guns and that respects the need.
Today forward, it is no longer legal to buy, sell, or transfer a handgun in Canada. It is no longer legal a handgun in Canada instead of paying their fair share. That's unacceptable.
Now, Facebook is choosing to block Canadians' access to local news.
That's unacceptable. In Canada.
Real deal gold, because anything else would be uncivilized.
Okay, welcome back everybody to Real Deal Media's Weekend Update. I am still Dean Ryan, who is cruising with you to midnight and beyond. That's absolutely correct. Tonight is sponsored by Real Deal Gold. Real Deal Gold, if you don't know about it, well, you should. Well, Real Deal Gold, because anything else is uncivilized. And isn't that the case? You can just go to realdealmedia.tv/gold. Should have the promo, but of course I don't have it. I'm only one guy who does 30 things at one time. Real Deal Media Gold. You'll be hearing more about that very, very soon. Also, tonight is brought to you by the Real Deal Media members, who are the visionaries with the debonair. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. We are the one-eyed kings and queens in the land of the blind. Isn't that the case? I think so. Just go to realdealmedia.tv/membership and become a night owl. Join the movement. Make a scene and howl at the moon. All the above, all the above. And last but not least, you can also get the new mugs. People have been getting these like hotcakes, and I'll tell you, at the Real Deal Media store, and the new collection's coming soon, but the Real Deal Media store, I got the new Axel Trump bourbon. For all of you who love the Trump narrative, well, we have that, but maybe you don't like Trump. But maybe you like Guns N' Roses. Well, we have that too. But then you're saying, Dean, I don't like either one of those. Well, you know what? There's nothing like a nice black coffee mug in the morning and waking up to it. That's what I call coffee. Anyways, you can get that at the Real Deal Media store. I should have the promo for that, but I don't. But also, last but not least, you can check us out on Brighteon, where we are live. Today is the first episode, and don't I feel great, because it's our most fractured episode, but what an episode to have. First impersonations there, impressions. At brighteon.com/Real Deal Media, /Real Deal Media. Okay. I'll be just completely giving this whole backstage a colonoscopy and ripping it to shreds after the show. Can't wait for that one. Anyways, let's continue now. There's a lot to get to, and we're going to try to get to your questions and comments very, very soon here. But let's continue on our forge ahead with our Real Deal headlines, as things are about to get salacious, and don't I know. All right, here it is. I was wondering, how am I going to do this? But now people are under investigations, all left and right. Everybody, all the time. The Politico season's heating up like no one's business. The time is now, they say. That's right. Well, now Elon Musk and two other people we'll get to here in a second is now, they're saying, handing over more data to investigators. What does this mean? What do they mean by this? I don't understand it, because this was supposed to be the bastion of free speech, X. This was supposed to be a guy who wants to take on the powers that be. What does it all mean? Anyways, we'll get to this in a second here. Let me tell you more about it here. So Elon Musk is now being questioned. Why didn't he want to start war with Russia? What's his problem? And can we indict him on something? I mean, you have Elizabeth Warren asking this. You have everybody on PMSNBC asking this. Why? What kind of power does Elon Musk truly really have? Well, they're saying now, since Elon Musk bought Twitter just roughly a year ago, he's been on a crusade to make the platform stand for protecting free speech. Really. As far as the laws allow, he even went as far as to costing the company the $350,000 fines for delaying handing over former President Donald Trump's Twitter data in the investigation leading up to January. Well, the day after the 5th. Well, just this recent Friday now. I can now tell you about it. This is very hard to read. Since this Friday, he was now handing over new data, they say. What kind of data? Well, data that's going to hurt Donald Trump, some might say. Two, unsealed, showing prosecutors. Another court filing that was unsealed, showing prosecutors had assessed 32 direct messages from Trump's Twitter account. So they're really trying to cook up the day after January 5th like it's just no one's business. It's like we just found out that Santa Claus is not real, but they keep saying if we don't behave, Santa's not going to give us a gift. They're continuing a lie, a fraud, a scheme, a scam, a witch hunt. Fill in the blank. So, but the balance between free speech now and following the law is proving vastly more complicated in much of the rest of the world now, where speech can be constrained by more restrictive laws, while Twitter, now known as X, they say, and I still don't like that, but has generally followed the law. Well, in the past, it touted positions fighting back and forth. So this is what's happening now. There was a request to turn over more information about its users to prosecutors in online hate crime investigations. In Germany. So this is what the Musk administration is doing. Well, the country has strict hate speech laws forbidding certain defamation of politicians and promotion of white supremacy, and the company under Musk has turned over reams of users' data to prosecutors to help identify those who broke the law over there in Germany. Now, let me just try to just make sense of this. Is that Germany is now requesting to see who has white supremacy ties. Meanwhile, older people are getting raped by migrants. But don't look at that. We're Germans. And they're now complying with this. This is a foreshadowing of what's going to be coming back here to the United States, if it hasn't already. Because the Democrats want the race war. The Democrats want to turn up and ignite the heat on everything racial to then have their communist color revolution finally under the guise of a race war. Of eliminating white supremacy. This is war. Yes, it is war, but this is an act of war. This is another act of war. And for Elon Musk to go along with this is beyond me. Well, I know I can hear the I told you so's out there, and I'm saying, yes, I heard you the first time, but I'm saying just in general, he needs to be held accountable for this, or anybody that does such brazen acts in this time of complete fraudulence. Anyways, moving on from that. So yeah, he's under an investigation, and God knows what they have on him. Now, continuing here, this is a story that I didn't know how to do. It was last minute, but it's very, very, very timely as well. Well, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, who I absolutely adore because I think she's really intelligent, she's very bright, she's smart, she gets it. And, just every state should have a governor like her. Well, now, the South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem and Trump advisor Corey Lewandowski, oh, God, have been having a years-long clandestine affair. Why? Why? He's the worst. He is such a blowhard that he should have his own morning show with just over there on PMSNBC. He just fits right in. He's terrible. Anyways, here it is. Well, Daily Mail now has uncovered evidence that Lewandowski was a complete blowhard and nobody likes, and Noem was a superstar, and they had dozens of trips that mix business with pleasure, private flights, luxury resorts, and when I say chocolate-covered strawberries. Well, the pair met up Friday for a Trump campaign rally in Rapid City, South Dakota, but were careful to have no public interaction. He's such a dirty, he's rotten. He's just a ratty person. And a corporate climber, if I might add, too. Anyways, despite being close for years, the two were first suspected of being romantically involved in 2021. But Noem scornfully dismissed the story as total garbage and disgusting lie. I believe her. There's nothing more to read here. Because he's so disgusting. Isn't he disgusting? God, I really hate him. Yeah, I really hate him. Should send him to Germany. Well, they're now saying the rising Republican star there, tripped by many to be the new Donald Trump VP, and she'd be wonderful in my view. Running mate should he win the presidential nomination. So she was being kind of procured to be a very specific spot in a new campaign. That's very key to note. So she's married as well. I'm sure they're just loving life right now. Well, now news of the relationship threatens to wreck Noem's chance of joining Trump's ticket. Isn't that something? Let me show you this photo here, because I can't stand this. It's actually heartbreaking, because I really hate Corey Lewandowski. Really, honestly. He's such just a piece of shit. All right, here it is. Let's look at this. Let's study the picture here. So, Kristi Noem, they're giving her a hard time for no reason. So here is the incredible Kristi Noem. Here's a rabbi. And then here's this blowhard loser right here. Let's go here. Look at this piece of terrible guy. He's like Eddie Haskell from next door. He's such a little square peg. Cannot believe this. Anyways, continuing here with another salacious story, and that one's heartbreaking. I can't, terrible. Well, now there's another salacious sex scandal brewing. And by the way, I don't think that should stop anybody from running or doing certain things. It's none of anyone's business. But why Corey Lewandowski is my final thing. Okay, continuing here with Real Deal headlines as the salacious stories of the night continue. Well, there's a new one coming out about Russell Brand. Russell Brand, who is, well, he's a superstar too as well. He's now known for being someone who's sober, living a life of sobriety, life of spirituality, and he's a rising star over there now on Rumble. And remember that part too. That's a very important part of the story. And the timing of it all. Well, now Russell Brand is now accused of rape by multiple women, and he denies the allegations. Well, 4 women have come forward now in a new report accusing of the entertainment personality Russell Brand of sexual assault. Very interesting. The timing is just very salacious. Can't even get any worse. Well, film star, comedian, and self-described alternative media broadcaster Russell Brand has been accused of sexual assault by 4 different women, they say. According to a new report of The Times over there in Channel 4 in England, Brand has taken to his social media channels to deny the accusations, which stem from a 7-year period during the height of his mainstream fame. So this is from a long time ago. Speaking to his audience, he claimed that the report stems from a time when he was very promiscuous, but that he always received consent for sexual liaisons. Well, that's good to know. Well, that's counter to the reports of now anonymous women who are just coming out of the woodworks for no reason from a Times piece of one of whom says she was only 16 when Brand was a little older, I believe in his 30s or early 30s, and allegedly referred to her as, quote, the child. Had a 3-month relationship with her that included an instance of alleged sexual assault. Another woman says that she went to a rape crisis center in the aftermath of an encounter with Brand in his Los Angeles home. She says she later texted him, when a girl says no, it means no. Okay. Very interesting. And finally, there is another woman who's accusing Russell Brand of being, quote, physically and emotionally abusive to her, along with allegations of sexual assault. Okay, this is incredible. It's now coming in just like torpedoes, just nonstop. And why is that? Why is that? Well, where is Brand currently making a big ordeal in presence felt? Well, it's Rumble. Rumble is they're part of a huge it's now being considered the biggest antitrust court proceedings in American history. Court cases in American history. As now I'm going to tell you about this. The Department of Justice has now been going against Google, long overdue if you ask anyone here, in an antitrust case that apparently just wrapped up this first week. And by the way, just so you know, I cannot find any updates on the Rumble versus Google lawsuit. I cannot find any updates on that. I looked and looked. I cannot find it. Anyways, continuing here. Well, the DOJ versus Google has just ended a very huge lawsuit as they wrapped up their first week. And that's just the first week, but it feels like forever for many of them because nobody's ever challenged Google before. This is a big deal. This is the first time. Google is the government. Google is the matrix. Google is the Antichrist, many say. But let me tell you this one here, and I'll show you a video too. Well, now the landmark antitrust trial between the Justice Department, the DOJ, and Google wraps up its first week of testimony just this recent Friday. Just when you thought it was over, well, now both sides presenting their initial arguments centered on the company's dominance of internet search. This is what Rumble is going against Google for as well. Well, here's the issue, they say. Is Google really that good, or has it used its size and power to create an unfair playing field? I believe so. I believe it's just yes across the board. Don't even ask. Well, the trial, the first in decades between the DOJ and a major technology company, is being closely watched, but not reported on by the big leagues. Not big time like it should be, but we're going to keep an eye on this. And it's being closely watched, for it could mean the future of antitrust cases and the technology industry, and their future hangs in balance. Now, here's a little quote here from a president of the American Antitrust Institute. She says, quote, "It will affect a lot of other cases as well, and whether we can really use the antitrust laws to rein in big tech," said Kathleen Bradish, the Antitrust Institute over there. So if this case goes the way of a very, very corrupt DOJ, this will set a precedence of the common man, the individual, the small businesses who have been screwed by big tech for years. This is a bigger case than what is this NBC News is leading on to be. So the DOJ now, here's their main argument. They started just saying that the monopoly of this search engine ordeal, the big tech on the block there, happened as early as 2010 that they know of. In the DOJ's case, which is joined by, they say, 11 state attorney generals, argue that Google closed off competition by securing exclusive deals with major tech platforms, including Apple's iPhone, web browsers like Safari, and also other owned and operated properties, the Google Chrome web browser. So that is everybody's phones, right? Everybody's phones, iPhones, everything, pretty much. I mean, you can't go anywhere without just tripping over Google. This is just incredible. Anyways, that's how that one is. We're going to be watching that one very, very closely. Okay, so we are almost out of here as our weekend updates are coming to a conclusion. Let's see what everybody's saying out there. Well, we have Star Nadine right off the bat. And Star, I am just like you. She says, I don't Google anything. Neither do I. I start page. Judy Murray agrees with me. She knew I was going to say that. She says, need to boycott damn Google. Yeah, it's kind of hard to, but I never use Google. I never use Amazon. If I have to search for something, I go to startpage.com. If I need something for editing and art or whatever the case, well, I use DuckDuckGo just for the pictures. That's what I do. If I need something, parts for computers or technology or electronics, I go to bestbuy.com. I'll never use Amazon. I can't do it. That's how we got to beat those people. We have to beat them and put our money, whatever we have left, to power and take these people down. I mean, good on the Institute for doing this. And yes, DuckDuck and Brave. Yeah, I use Brave browser. Absolutely. Very good. All right, here's some other people, and we are not on Rumble. Okay, that's wonderful. And has anybody checked us on Brighteon yet? Has anyone checked? You can do that. Okay, I'll check later. Anyways, here's some other people who are piping in all over the world. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, here's one more thing here. As Angela DeTore says, Russell's getting millions of viewers, censorship. Yeah. Have you noticed who are the biggest acquisitions of Rumble over the past year? On top of their conquest of taking down Google in a lawsuit, well, it's been Steven Crowder and Russell Brand, the biggest $1 million of, whatever their pay was, acquisitions for Rumble. And who got attacked? Both of them. It looks very coordinated to me. What happened to Steven Crowder and then now happens to Russell Brand, who is unifying a lot of people on his show. Left, right, center, up, down. Very interesting. Just like they're going after Kristi Noem. They want to vilify her because she was in the running to be a VP with Trump. And I think should still be in the running. Why should this stupid story ever even stop anybody? But, then again, it's him. It's him. Why she would he must have drugged her. There's just no way. Corey Lewandowski. Yeah, I bet he probably did that. So they're targeting everybody right now. They're targeting everybody. So I think that the Rumble All-Stars are being targeted. I think Rumble's being targeted. And that's why when the opportunity and the chance to now stream on Brighteon came about, I think it's a great thing because Brighteon, out of all of these platforms, no matter what you think, is the most solid and organic video platform out there that has no corporate ties to any of these people. So it's truly an honor. Anyways, okay, let's see what else is here. We have Angela from the UK who says, yes, I do, but he's got a bad reputation with women and drugs. But yet we're talking about 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Why now? Why now in a political season? Why now on a political season? Who else are they going to have? Just all these, you know what, I hate to use the word, but all the distractions, just like the ET. Did you see the ET? My God. That they found in Mexico? I can't even begin to tell you. All right, here's some more people who are chiming in here. Thanks everyone for making it this far. Okay, we have Karen Peterson of the Peterson Institute. She says, dirty Q, exactly. Once one admits and repents and never does it again, Russell has done the right thing. Okay. Don't give Dirty Q any credence, Karen. Don't let him win. Yes, never do that. In fact, Dirty Q actually next Friday. Let me do some of these plugs here before we get out of here. Next weekend. There's going to be Friday Night Rumble, and Dirty Q is going to be taking on somebody. I'll have more about that, but it's going to be a big show next Friday. And then next Saturday, we will have the second edition premiere of Underground Traffic, filmed by yours truly. 10 p.m. Eastern, plus Q&A after. Whatever happened, what was the aftermath, what truly went on, all of those inquiries. And new scenes and also HD performance, yes. It's going to be the new film. So that's going to be next weekend. Blockbuster at that. All right, we're going to get out of here. I think we've covered it all here. We've covered it all. And, okay, but yeah, Russell Brand is making all the commotion I see. All the commotion. Somebody said, I see why Katy Perry left him. Or did he leave her? Katy Perry. Interesting. Anyways, we're going to get out of here, but before we do, we have a very, very quick little thing here. It's called this. Final thoughts here as we're a little shaky beginning here tonight as we are trying to welcome aboard our new platform with Brighteon. But the final thought, all that aside, is the salacious political season seems to heat up. It's all just emotional bondage we don't need. It's emotional bondage we don't need. It's emotional bondage. People seem to not break away from those chains and only just dig their heels in and continue to get involved in the reality show produced, directed by the deep state. And there's no need for it. There's no need for it. What was scandalous 20 years ago and salacious, well, it has no effect anymore. In fact, the greatest example of that is in a recent attempt to do a world tour by Madonna. She tried to recreate her 1990 sex book by releasing something very similar and to no avail of interest. Well, the same thing applies to the so-called news media out there that is really just the PR firms of the elites, the oligarchies, the bankers, the nefarious, all of them and all the above. But we're wise to it. We're wise to it just like we're wise to where the potatoes from McDonald's comes from. What's truly in fast food. What is really the fake sugar out there? And just how bad is sodium? Well, We don't trust these stories anymore. They don't have that emotional effect on us anymore because we have the eye on the prize, and it is freedom, and it is true justice, and which also incorporates a rope and a noose, from what I heard. And that has to come. It has to be shown publicly, and these people have to be shamed, not these people. I mean, yes, it should be vetted and make sure, there was no nefarious hurt or just danger or any elements of homicide or what have you, all the above. But the timing is so suspect. It just falls upon deaf ears, interest, and pretty much attention span at that. So anyways, I want to leave you on that. Okay, so I will be back here Monday night for our main show for World at War. And I will be presenting the new second edition of my film next weekend, plus some other surprises as well, the return of Jim Fencer. And we're going to keep our eye on Hawaii. We're going to reprise that story that needs to be continued. Well, we have to continue the discussion about it and not let those people be forgotten, nor the people of Canada, and nor the people who are in harm's way of this pandemic war. So I'm going to leave you with that. So for Aaron Cates, Jim Fetzer, and everyone else here at Real Deal Media, I'm Dean Ryan saying thank you for sharing a bit of your weekend, your late night weekend with us. And meanwhile, always remember to stay tuned and stay awake and enjoy this incredible speech from a very brave German parliament member. Here it is. Good night, everyone.
We will continue to stand with you, the people. We will continue to fight for freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. We will not shut up, and we will not stop going after those despicable globalitarian misanthropists. But we would also like to have you make a promise to us. You may have heard, it's all coming back. The first country's already starting about talking mask mandates in Israel. They're already imposing it. I've heard of a few universities in the United States. They're already bringing it all back. And I would really like for you, the people, to not go along. Simply say no. They want you to wear a mask? Say no. They want you to put in another mRNA shot? Say no. They want to impose a curfew on you? Say no. That's really all you have to do. Because once you've made it clear to them that you will no longer go along, once you've let them know, they cannot scare you anymore. Because as long as you're afraid of what they might do, if you don't comply, they have power over you. Take the power away from them. Simply say no.